Hello, everyone, and welcome to Godsal's Turnbuckle, the wrestling podcast. I am running over here at youtube.com. My name is Robert the Godsaw Campbell, and it is time to do a review of AEW's Double or Nothing. It happened last night. I am going to be doing a review of it here. We also did have some simulations that showed up on the page, and also some predictions that also showed up on this channel as well. If you do want to continue going along with that, I will recommend giving a like, share, subscribe, whatever you would like to do to be able to support the channel. It would be much appreciated on that one. But let's get right into Double or Nothing. They started off with Private Party going up against Best Friends in the buy-in. This was a decent enough match. The Best Friends do end up winning this one in the end. But overall, I felt like this was a decent enough match. It definitely does show the athleticism of Private Party, but it also does show their inexperience as well, as their timing was a little bit off in this match, and it did come off as a little botchy or a little bit overly contrived in those particular ones. But overall, I thought this was a rather decent match. And of course, Best Friends, that they've been kind of pushing them over the last few weeks with the terms of making the actual Best Friends look like credible tag team competitors. So Best Friends going over in this case seem to be a little bit more. Maybe they're trying to, groom Private Party a little bit more before they give them their actual push, because again, their inexperience definitely showed in this particular match itself. After this, you do have a great video package for the first responders, also showing for Shad Gaspar before the show actually started. And this led into the casino ladder match. This casino ladder match, I'll go over the actual people, how they came in order. So it started with Frankie Kazarian and Scorpio Sky to start the actual match itself. Then they were followed by Kip Sabian, Darby Allin. Then you also had Orange Cassidy after that. Holt Cabana came out after that one. Then it was Joey Janela, Luchasaurus, and then, well, I'll get into that in a brief moment. I'll get into that little portion in a brief moment because we had the to be announced person. This match was, I'm not gonna lie, in the terms of this match, there was a lot of high spots in this match, and actually high comedy. But I was not the biggest fan of this match itself because let's be fully fair on this one. This match was a little over contrived, and in the terms of its rule set, because you had a ladder match where the match could technically end before everybody could get out there. Like, your to be announced person may not have been there at all. You could have just ended the match without them even showing up to go along with that. And they could have even played that off with like camaraderie and everything with Scorpio Sky and Kaz at the beginning to go along with it. So they had somebody coming out every 2 minutes. And initially it was set every 90 seconds, but they made it every 2 minutes. They kept the clock up there, so it was a full 2 minutes before everybody was really coming out to go along with it. And in the terms of ladder matches with the spots that was done, especially the Darby Allin spot with the skateboard off the top of the ladder going through the other ladder where it looked like he could have broken his leg. Lots of really good spots in this particular one. Some of the funny ones with Orange Cassidy not necessarily knowing what to do with the ladders, also like laying the ladder flat or being just too lazy to want to put the ladder up and try to fold it out. I thought those were some really good bits in this match itself. But overall, this match I didn't really care for. I thought it was decent. I thought it was good in the terms of the ladder matches, in terms of their spots, in terms of their action. But with it being so overly contrived with what they decided to do, they made it a battle royal ladder match, which, or not even a battle royal. They made it like a Royal Rumble ladder match. And when matches like that, and I'll kind of go into this a little bit, when matches go that route, I'm not the biggest fan of them due to the factors of their rule sets kind of becoming overly complicated. To go along with it. Where I talk about the Stadium Stampede match a little bit later and the other styles of matches to go along with that, I actually enjoy those matches because the rules, they're simple, but everything else goes crazy. Everything else goes crazy with it, but the rules of the match are simple enough as it is. Say with the or the Stadium Stampede match, or the Money in the Bank ladder matches that were cinematic, or the Boneyard match that was cinematic, or even to a certain degree the Firefly Funhouse, though that wasn't really as much of a match. That was more storytelling. But their rules were simple. The winner, like with the Stampede match, was by pinfall submission. Simple. Everything else goes crazy. This one has rule sets of somebody's coming out every 2 minutes. So you start with two, someone comes out every 2 minutes. Then you're going to go ahead and try to climb the ladder as it's happening to go along with it. And the match can technically end without not everybody coming in. It's like, wait, what? It's overly contrived. And honestly, it reminds me of things like early day TNA, or maybe not early. Yeah, kind of early day TNA when they went to Spike TV with the reverse battle royals and you got to do this, then you got to do this to win, then you got to do that to win, and it's like you're overly complicating it. And that was my biggest problem with this actual match. The action in the match itself I thought was perfectly fine. And in the end, technically, all you have to do is climb the ladder to win. It's just they over contrived it by like, oh, not everybody's going to start the match, but they're going to come out every 2 minutes, but it can also end before everybody comes out. That was my biggest problem with the match. Now let's get to the person who was the actual mystery or to be announced person. That was Brian Cage. I picked Chris Hero when I did predictions on that one. I completely forgot Brian Cage was in a free agency mode. I thought he was still doing stuff with Impact at the time, based off of the fact that his wife actually does still do stuff with Impact to go along with it. She may not anymore. I'm not 100% certain. It's been a while since I've watched Impact. But Brian Cage comes out. He basically F10s or F5000s Darby Allin and starts throwing people around. Everybody gets to the point that everybody has to fight Brian Cage, and they have to beat him down, and then they bury him under ladders, under a guardrail, and then they take one of the poker chips, the stage prop poker chips, and put it on top of there. I love the fact that later on in the match he just bust out of it. You had a Death Valley Driver done to, I think, Orange Cassidy by Joey Janela on top of that to go along with it, and Brian Cage eventually just burst out of it and wins the match. Brian Cage is going to be the number one contender for the AEW World Championship, which it looks like, though we did get it a little bit later that they announced All Out being on September 5th, but it looks like we're also going to be getting Fighter Fest as well in July. No locations announced for these shows because you can't really guarantee anything on that at this moment in time with how everything is going on in the world. But they did announce that you're going to have those two particular shows coming up. And it's also been announced that Brian Cage is going to face the winner of Jon Moxley and Brody Lee, which I guess I won't spoil that little portion in my review at this moment in time. You'll find out on that particular one a little bit later. Overall, like I said, I thought it was a decent match, a little over-contrived with this one. Up next, we had MJF going up against Jungle Boy. And I thoroughly enjoyed this match. Both of these guys have very good ring psychology and very good understandings of their characters to go along with it. Jungle Boy playing as the ultimate babyface, MJF playing as the ultimate heel. He even fakes an injury, even to the point that they bring the doctor into the actual ring to check on him, and then he gets up and goes after him. I'm going to probably start a thing here, though. I think I only saw one of these tonight. to go along with it. My destroyer counter, yes, I'm calling him the destroyer or the Canadian destroyer. I'm going to give it a counter, and I think at some point in time, maybe on the yeah, right up here. We'll give a counter on the shows, especially for we'll give a counter for the shows of how many Canadian destroyers we see, then how many super kicks we see inside of there. We'll have some fun with that one to go along with that. We did see a lot more super kicks on the night. I'll have to start taking count of those on all shows as well. But overall, I thoroughly enjoyed this match. Both of them were they weren't wrestling a super high flying style. We did get a couple dives from Jungle Boy in there, but there was a lot of wrestling, a lot of working over Jungle Boy's arm from MJF to set up for the Salt of the Earth. But it doesn't end up being the finish of the match. The finish of the match is where you see them both going for a series of roll ups. And this was actually just a good wrestling counter from MJF. You don't even see him necessarily cheat. He does a roll up, and then Jungle Boy reverses it and does his own roll up, which MJF reverses it into a roll up where he's bridging his shoulders up, and he has the hands clasped of Jungle Boy to pick up the pin on this one. MJF was doing a lot of extra heel stuff throughout the entire match, so it makes it work on the aspects that he doesn't necessarily fully cheat to win, though he did try pulling the tights on some of those roll-ups. MJF is absolutely fantastic. I love this match. I thought this was really good and came off just as both guys, even though at young ages, feeling like that they are veterans and have very good ring psychology to go along with it. Up next, we have the Lance Archer Cody match. This is for the TNT title. Let's go ahead and talk about that for a brief moment, because I like the fact that they mentioned, because when you saw the TNT title for the first time, I didn't see the picture with Mike Tyson earlier in the day. It looked like it was bad in some way, shape, or form. They make mention to it in the matches, like, hey, due to everything going on, due to the pandemic, everything like that, the title wasn't completely plated, wasn't completed at that point in time. So you will be seeing differences and changes once everything is able to be done to go along with it. I like the fact that they did that, because honestly, the way that it looked initially, with the exception of the side plates being a little bit more detailed at that moment, it was 24/7 title worthy at that time. Not worse than it, but maybe just a little bit better than it at that moment. And that's why I kind of noted. And then they made mention that I was like, okay, makes sense. This was a good match. I did enjoy this match. I like the fact of the sense of urgency from Lance Archer. He hits his finishing move, the blackout, really quickly in the match. Cody rolls out to the outside of the ring. They do fight around. Cody pretty much gets dominated for most of this match. He hits a crossroads early on, but Lance Archer actually rolls outside the ring as well, so he doesn't necessarily kick out of that. And again, he continues to dominate the match, and you have Jake taunting Cody. I like the factor of also in this match, you had Cody hit a DDT in front of Jake, but then Lance Archer hits a spine buster, an Arn Anderson style spine buster in front of Arn Anderson. Eventually, towards the end of the match, this is where it becomes a little bit overbooked. In all honesty, it wasn't that bad, I thought. So you had, and here was the great thing through this. You had Mike Tyson out there. He was sitting at ringside. He was sitting by the bell keepers area. And he's having the time of his life. He's like into it, but they also catch him yawning at one point to go along with. They catch it on camera. It's like, oh, cut from that type of thing, which was kind of a little bit of a funny, unintentional funny moment with that one. But at the end of the match, you have Arn Anderson trip up because Jake is distracting the referee. Arn Anderson trips up Lance Archer on the top rope. Another referee comes out and points that out to the official who's in the match. So he decides to kick out Arn Anderson, and he also decides to kick out Jake Roberts to go along with it. He sent both of them to the back because Jake caused the distraction that allowed that to happen. I liked a little bit that you had Mike Tyson, and he was almost like they were looking at him. He's like shooting them off to go along with it, and then like, nope, just go, get rid of them. Eventually, Jake does come back to with his snake to do something, but Mike Tyson chases him away. Mike Tyson doesn't really do too much in this match. This does cause enough distraction for Cody to hit Lance Archer with two crossroads to pick up the victory. Overall, I thought this was a pretty good match. Like I said, I like the aspect of Lance Archer continually having to he was put over strong in this match, and it took multiple crossroads to pick up the victory on that one to go along with it. And overall, I just enjoyed the match. Cody picking up that victory and picking up the TNT title to go along with it. It'll be interesting to see what that belt looks like once it's completed as well. Up next, we have Penelope Ford going up against Chris Statlander. I'm going to go off and say that I think Penelope Ford, kind of much like with Private Party earlier on the show, showed a bit of inexperience in this match. It wasn't that it was botchy. It just felt like she was very slow in going through the motions of the match itself. Now, granted, she was also a replacement for Dr. Britt Baker to go along with that. So I imagine they didn't really have much time to really put together a match. Honestly, I thought this was a decent enough match with Chris Statlander kind of holding the match together on that one. Again, Penelope Ford just looked like she was just a step off during this match. On that particular one. Maybe that was them playing up the fact that she did take a bump during the casino ladder match for Kip Sabian, where she fell off the ladder. I don't necessarily know, but it did feel like it was coming off a little slow, and it wasn't as crisp as you would have thought. Chris Statlander does pick up the victory in this one via the Chaos Theory Tombstone Pile Driver. Again, decent enough match, but nothing spectacular about it. Up next, you have Shawn Spears going up against Dustin Rhodes. Shawn Spears comes out in a suit, teasing that this was going to be a win by forfeit because Dustin Rhodes wasn't going to be there. He wasn't here. They play his music. He doesn't show up. His music plays again. Lo and behold, Brandy Rhodes comes out. Dustin shows up from behind him. Match is on. This is more comedy style because Dustin kind of tears apart the suit that Shawn Spears is in, even to the point that where he gets down to his undies. They get to a little spot there where it has a picture of Tully Blanchard on his underwear to go along with it. That's when Shawn Spears gets very embarrassed, recognizes that, and then and then Dustin hits, I forget what he calls it now, but it used to be the final curtain before on that one to pick up the victory. This was not too much of a match here. Honestly, it was more of a comedy setup here on this one, and it worked out for what it was. It worked out for what it was because it was only for a few minutes to go along with it. This led to Hikaru Shida going up against Nyla Rose. Before that, they did have a graphic for Hanaya. Sorry, I'm horrible with names. The Joshi wrestler, the Japanese wrestler from Stardom who had passed away the day before. They put up a graphic for her. I like that nice little touch on that one. Very sad. Nothing I really want to really talk too much about. Other than to say, based off of things that had come out today beforehand, we need to be nicer to people. Cyberbullying is, yeah, it's very unwelcomed on this one. But onto the match. This was a yeah, it's just very unwelcome on those ones. I can't really stress it too much. Somebody who has been bullied before when they were younger, not it's not good. It just isn't. And it's even harder when you deal with it in a cyber variation because, the people that are there saying those things, they feel like there's no consequence when there is consequence. And that's what happened on Friday. There's consequences for doing things like that. And yeah, all in all, need to be nicer to people. Need to be nicer to people down with everything on that one. So we'll cut into the match here. This was a fantastic match. Sheeta and Nyla Rose. It was no count out, no disqualification. This was fantastic. Since I am also a gamer to go along with it, I like the nice little touch of Hikaru Shida pulling off a Tifa cosplay to go along with that from Final Fantasy VII. From the Final Fantasy VII, she did more variation from Final Fantasy VII Remake. Nice little touch. Huge gamer. Big ups on that one to go along with it. But both of them, this was fantastic. Like, they were using everything in the area. They use, Sheeta got thrown through one of the poker tables on the face side. Sheeta puts or does a running knee off of the set of the poker chips and launches herself into Nyla Rose and puts her sends hers flying into one of the standing poker chips to go along with it. The kendo stick thing I liked at the beginning as well, and that played a big role in this because it turned out that when Hikaru Shida lost her kendo stick, the one thing that I wish they would have done is that they would have given some more meaning behind that particular kendo stick to Hikaru Shida. That's the only thing I think they missed on that one. But Nyla Rose comes out. They kind of fight over it. Nyla Rose at the beginning of the match tries to use it. They fight over it. Shida gets it, but is caught. That kendo stick eventually gets launched. It comes back into play a little bit later. Eventually, like, the aspect that they went with this match was the fact that both of them were it was very evenly matched to its own degree, but the factor of how much determination Hikaru Shida had throughout the entire match to go along with it. She gets put through a table via a powerbomb very late in the match. That only gets a 2 count. Shida eventually finally fires back up. She does hit a couple of really good kendo stick shots, hits the running knee, gets a 2 count on that one. Nyla Rose is finally dazed, everything like that. Nyla Rose gets back up, and Shida takes a baseball-style swing with the kendo stick and just wallops Nyla Rose across the neck and right around the head area. And that puts Nyla Rose down, where she hits the running knee one more time, and Hikaru Shida picks up the victory and won the AEW Women's title. This was top-notch match. This was a top-notch match, and honestly, in the terms of matches, in the terms of normal style wrestling matches through the night, was probably my match of the night on that one, which I'm going to talk about Brody Lee and Jon Moxley a little bit in just a little bit on this one. But honestly as well, not only was this probably match of the night, this might have been their best women's match that they've put on in AEW so far. There have been some really good ones out there, especially with Nyla Rose and Riho. Also the original 6-woman tag match that happened at the original Double or Nothing show, which also included Riho and Hikaru Shida inside of it as well. But this was top notch. This was a top notch match. Very much worth going to watch if you can find it in any way, shape, or form. Up next is the AEW World Title match. It is Mr. Brody Lee versus Jon Moxley. Honestly, I thought this was a fine match. And I'll in the terms of the action, I thought this was really good. to go along with it, but I could not find myself getting into this match all that much. The stuff that they did in the terms of putting Brody Lee over, even in the loss, yes, Moxley won this match. He's going to be facing Brian Cage at Fyter Fest. To go along with that. But the things that they did to try to put Brody Lee over was really good, especially with the factor that Moxley does a paradigm shift off of the steps through the stage. Moxley crawls back up, and then you just like have this fiery Brody Lee coming up afterwards, bloodied and everything like that. Moxley hits another paradigm shift as well. Gets a 1 count. Hits the Death Rider variation. Gets a 2 count. The only way Mox was able to actually win was to put in a rear naked choke, a sleeper hold, onto Brody Lee, and he passes out. I feel like in the terms of putting Brody Lee over as a competitor, they did a very good job here. My biggest problem with this match, and the reason why I wasn't really getting into it as much as it was, is I felt like it was a little bit too soon for Brody. He's only been around the company for a couple of months since his release from WWE. And honestly, in all honesty here, I don't think they had built up Brody Lee enough to make him a viable contender towards the world title. Now, they did that through this match, and I would expect to be more into it the next time around if they decide to go that route with Brody Lee again. I don't think that's going to be the case, though. But I feel like they've done a lot in this match to build him, but it wasn't time for him to make a world title match. And now, granted, like I may mention during my predictions, their plans and everything may have been a little bit set for a loop because of the pandemic, everything to go along with that. So that's why I really only consider this a decent match, because I wasn't super into it. Now, the action, like I said, I thought was really good. They brawled around the ring. This was a very good brawl between the two of them, and that was basically the final 3 matches of the show. Was like you had this hard hitting weapon style no DQ match with Hikaru Shida and Nyla Rose, which came off really good. You have this like just brawl around the ring between Mox and Brody Lee as well. And like I said, I thought the match in action was good, but I wasn't into it because of the story that they had set up. It didn't have enough time to breathe, to set up and get going at that point. So this brings us to the Stadium Stampede match. It's the Elite. You have Nick Jackson, you have Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page, and their honorary member, Broken Matt Hardy, going up against the Inner Circle, which of course was Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara, Santana and Ortiz, and Jake Hager. I love the fact that when they introduced them all football style, but also with the Inner Circle, they came out as like with Inner Circle jerseys. They all had numbers. They got announced with numbers to go along with it. I thought it was absolutely fantastic the way that they looked going into this match. And I also like the fact that when the Elite come out, they're not all matching in any way. They feel like a mismatch of people to its own degree, but even to the point that I like this, like you have Adam, they announce Adam Hangman Page, he doesn't come out, and they're like, the Young Bucks are looking at Kenny as like, what's going on? And Kenny's like, don't worry, he'll be here, type thing, which this started the insanity. Both of them, I think, started at about the 25-yard line, and then they start charging, they start brawling. Eventually, Sammy Guevara gets away from everything, and lo and behold, Adam Page shows up, and he shows up on a horse, and this plays off of everything with the golf cart, and you get that a little bit later as well with the golf cart bit, where to go along with it, that they played off of Omega and Hardy chasing down Guevara with that golf cart on Dynamite. You get that a little bit later as well, but it feels like the aspect of chasing Sammy Guevara around. So Adam Page chases him to the back, tries to find him. So we're cutting back and forth to between that. Eventually, Guevara shows back up. No Page. They cut to the back. Page is still on the horse looking for Sammy Guevara. Then he gets off the horse, and lo and behold, he finds the East Club, which is the bar. And it's like he tells the horse, "Stay here," and goes off. That does play a little bit later into the match, of course. I like that nice little touch to go along with it. Paige going to the bar, just like kind of normal with it. What else? There's so much happening because not only do they fight on the field, eventually Matt Hardy and Santana Ortiz and Omega fight into the stands area. You have Ortiz and Santana throwing Matt into the water, into the pool area. One of them was like, "I can't swim." It's like, it's 3 feet of water, dude. Don't worry about it. And they start trying to drown Matt Hardy. But lo and behold, apparently somehow, the Lake of Reincarnation shows up, and he shows up as Matt Hardy from the original Hardy Boys era, and he starts doing the finger thing with it, and they duck him back under, and they cut to this little spot under the pool where you have Matt doing it again, smiling under there. They bring him back up. Lo and behold, it's V1. And what did they do? They do their own little bit of Matt facts by saying "matter of facts." Nice touch. Nice little touch there, saying he's like, little known that Matt Hardy can actually hold his breath for 348 seconds or 46 seconds or something like that. They also have like his little different bits there. They put him under there. They cut there again. He's doing the V1 thing. He comes back up again. This time he is Damascus, and he chases around Santana and Ortiz. This is after Kenny Omega had been put through a guardrail, by the way, as well, by Santana and Ortiz, to go along with it. And Matt starts, gaining control, and Excalibur was a little early on this one because he said, "For whom the bell tolls," beforehand. Before Matt Hardy gets to the actual bell there, I think he put Ortiz under there and rings the bell. And of course, Ortiz, like that, if you've ever been stuck with that, it's not good. Like, of course, a super over the top sell. He puts him in the chair of wheels. I love how he becomes Dr. Matt Hardy on this one as well. It's like, take one of these and call me in the morning, punches them to go along with it. Yeah, just a lot of really crazy. I can't even really call most of this. Let's go back to the bar with this one, because Jake Hager is actually looking for Adam Page. He finds the horse and he finds the bar. He knows where to go. Eventually, he does show up next to him. I like how Adam Page is like, "So, are you here to have a drink, or are you here to have a fight?" Pours him a shot, slides it to him. Jake just takes a swig of it, as Adam does as well. Actually, he just shoots it. And then I like how Adam Page is like, "You know what? What makes the difference?" And just starts brawling with him. Hager takes massive control here, slamming him on the pool table, doing the gut wrench powerbomb through another table as well eventually, but not before he does the comedy Western bit on the bar itself, dragging Adam Page through the whole thing. But lo and behold, who ends up saving Adam Page? It's Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega shows back up. Yes, they are still a team. Yes, they are together. And they even show that here with everything. They beat down Jake Hager. I like the aspect of Omega actually bending over for Adam Page to be able to do the buckshot lariat on there. And then eventually Adam Page ends up behind the bar, and they're just looking at each other. It's like, Page goes like, "Your usual?" And Omega's like, "Yes." So all of a sudden you have Page pull out a bottle of whiskey, and then the gallon of milk. Omega pours a shot of whiskey for Paige, and Paige pours the milk for Omega. They cheers and they drink. Very nice stuff. I like that nice little bit. It shows the camaraderie there, and that mainly at this point in the storyline, mostly Adam Page's problem with the Elite is the Bucks at this point to go along with it, not necessarily his tag team partner. Which you don't fully see there because they do, which I'll talk about in a brief moment. We do cut back to the football field area, and you have Jericho fighting, I believe, with Matt Jackson, and then you have Nick Jackson with Sammy Guevara to go along with it, and you have you have both of them. You have both of them brawling. Everything to go are both brawling on there. You have Nick Jackson starting his rotate. If I mix these up, it's my bad because I'm still fully getting used to it as well. But you have Nick Jackson doing his Northern Light suplexes. He does the 3, which you kind of expect. We'll come back to that. They start showing more brawling between the between Matt Jackson and Chris Jericho, where they're brawling through the stands, they're brawling to the field area. They cut back to Nick Jackson, still doing Northern Light suplexes. He's now at the 50-yard line, by the way, to go along with it. They cut back over to them. Eventually, Jericho puts Matt Jackson into the Jaguar head, and they also, where the field goal kickers practice their field goals on the sidelines, I believe Jericho gets put through that as well, and with a super kick, which they're like, it's good. There's a lot of like comedy and serious stuff that are going on here that I absolutely loved. Jericho gains control. They cut back to Nick Jackson at the 10-yard line now, still doing Northern Light suplexes. They cut back over to there. Chris Jericho gets a very close pinfall attempt. And lo and behold, what does he do? He pulls out the red challenge flag, challenges Aubrey Edwards. It's like, dude, that was a 3 count. It's like, I'm challenging the call. Then they go into the challenge tent, and I love how Aubrey is like, you can't be coming in here. No, I want to see the replay of this. It's like, Jericho, you can't come in here. Eventually they come out of there. They come out, and it's like after further review, the call on the field stands. Match continues. Jericho's like, you're just a shitty referee, to go along with it, and they cut back to Nick Jackson still doing Northern Light suplexes. Eventually reaches the end zone with Sammy Guevara. He does like a little Alex Wright. Or actually what he does, he starts celebrating, takes Sammy Guevara, spikes him like a football, and he spikes him, gets a 2 count, which he which only gets the 2 count. He does doing a little bit of a touchdown celebration to go along with it. Does a little bit of Alex Wright, which what was it? I forget the referee's name, but the referee there, he throws a penalty flag saying for excessive celebration, and Matt Jackson super kicks him to go along with it. Or not Matt, but Nick Jackson super kicks him to go along with it on that one. They do eventually go back to Jericho again here. That's where he gets kind of this, where he kind of gets taken out. Santana Ortiz had already been taken out by Matt and Kenny earlier. Hager was taken out by them in the bar. Jericho has been taken out. This leaves only Sammy Guevara. And Guevara, he gets woken up by the sprinklers, thinking he won the match because he's the only one standing. What happened? Well, there's Kenny Omega and Matt Hardy again with the golf cart. They chase him down again. With everything from before, but this time Guevara gets away into the stands. This is where the match kind of pretty much comes to its conclusion because they finally have, uh, you know, basically surrounded Sammy Guevara. They eventually fight up to this point where I think it's like where the camera area would be over one of the over one of the team entrances, which Omega puts Sammy Guevara on his shoulders and does the one winged angel off of that into what was probably a crash pad, but off of that about a 20-foot drop. And that is the end of the match. The Elite and Matt Hardy win. This was insanity. This was good, actually. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I laughed. I thought they did do some decent spots that was serious to go along with it. They did some decent comedy spots to go along with it as well. This was absolute insanity. And again, with these cinematic style matches, I thoroughly enjoy them. I do. Especially when they're able to incorporate normal wrestling to go along with that. In those particular ones, I like the ones that the WWE has done. I dug the Boneyard match. I dug the Firefly Funhouse match. I dug the Money in the Bank ladder match. This match as well. I dug it. I thought it was really good. Very enjoyable. Hopefully we're not going to get these matches all the time. But overall, I thoroughly enjoyed this one, and overall, I thoroughly enjoyed the show as well. Just the show as well was just top notch. But with that being said, that is everything I've got for you on this particular one. Double or Nothing was a very good show, very enjoyable to go along with it. And with that being said, I'll see you guys next time. Again, if you did like the review, give a like, share, subscribe. Anything to support the channel will be very happy to go along with. And with that being said, take care, stay safe, and stay healthy, and have a great rest of your day.